Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see all about schedule trigger in Azure. Before we get into the schedule trigger, let's understand what is a trigger. In the ever-evolving world of data management, ensuring timely and efficient data processing is paramount. Imagine a bustling car manufacturing assembly line. If you wanted to automate the entire car manufacturing process, there are multiple flows and events are involved. The completion of one event has to initiate another event. In the inventory, if one of the parts of the car goes out of stock, the entire assembly line gets stopped. So if the part reaches a threshold limit, an event has to occur to make a purchase order of that particular part. Trigger acts as a one-step solution to determine when your pipeline needs to be executed. Triggers are used to run a data pipeline to run without any interventions. Trigger is a processing unit that determines when to begin or invoke an end-to-end pipeline execution. Triggers have many-to-many relationship with pipelines. That means that one trigger can run multiple pipelines and one pipeline can be run by many triggers. Triggers can be classified into three types: schedule trigger, tumbling window trigger, and event-based trigger. In this video, we are going to see schedule trigger. Schedule trigger fires your pipeline at a predefined interval like daily, hourly, minutely, yearly, etc. Schedule trigger is a perfect solution for ETL tasks that happens at a scheduled interval. One example when we can go with schedule trigger is, if you wanted to automatically refresh your data warehouse every night, you can go with schedule trigger. Let's see the practical implementation of the schedule trigger. Here is our Azure Data Factory. We have one pipeline PL sample which has one copy data activity. This pipeline copies set of files from source folder to the target folder. Here is our source folder where we have set of files, and here is our target folder. Currently the target folder is empty. Once we run the pipeline, we see that the files from the source folder will be copied to the target folder. Let me execute the pipeline once. The pipeline ran successfully. Now let me refresh the target folder. We see that the files are successfully copied from the source folder to the target folder. For this pipeline, I am going to add a schedule trigger. In order to do that, I am going to Azure Data Factory and go to the pipeline. Let me click Add Trigger and select New or Edit, and in the Choose Trigger, I am going to add a new trigger. I am going to name my trigger as Trigger Sample. There are three types of trigger in Azure: schedule trigger, tumbling window trigger, and two types of event triggers. One is storage events and the other one is customs event. For this demo, I am going to select schedule trigger. My start date is as on today, and I have my time zone already selected. I want the trigger to be executed every 1 minute. So I am going to select every 1 minute. We can also select hourly, days, weekly, or monthly, depending on your requirement. For example, if you select every month, we can select on which particular date we have to run the pipeline. If you select weekly, we can select on what days we have to run the pipeline. Or if you select days, we can specify the hours and the minutes on which the pipeline has to be run. In this particular scenario, I'm going to select minutes. I want the pipeline to be executed every 1 minute. I can even specify an end date. The pipeline will run from 9:6 to 9:7 every 1 minute. For this particular scenario, I'm not going to select the end date. I'm going to click OK. The trigger has to be published in order to activate the trigger. So I'm going to click OK and I'm going to publish this trigger. The trigger is successfully published. Now let me see if the trigger is created. Let me go to Manage and click Trigger. We see that the trigger is created. If we click Related, we will be able to see on what pipeline the trigger is mapped. In our case, the trigger is mapped to PL sample. Let me click Close. Now I'm going to run my pipeline. Let me trigger my pipeline now and let me click OK. The pipeline is running. Let me pause the video for some time and see if the pipeline is executed every 1 minute. I am back. If you see, the pipeline runs, we triggered the pipeline manually once, and every 1 minute the trigger is invoked and the pipeline is executed. This is how the schedule trigger works in Azure Pipelines. I hope you got a fair idea of schedule trigger in Azure Pipeline, and I'm sure that you learned something new today. If you do like this video, please consider to subscribe, and I will see you in yet another interesting Azure concepts. Thank you.